and welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. I'm your host, Katey Creel, and in this week's episode, we're joined by Cissy Zhou in Hong Kong to talk about China's next big thing, humanoid robots. Welcome to the show, Cissy.
Hi, Katey. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's always great having you. So this week we're talking about humanoid robots, perhaps the most Tech Asia topic we've ever done. It's so futuristic. It's something that, we've had so many films and books and TV shows about. And I think everyone's always been waiting, when are we going to have really human-like robots? But the real-world development is also tech-heavy. It's futuristic. It involves cutting-edge AI and chips and manufacturing. So I guess start off, how many years away are we from the Blade Runner future where we have human robots?
Yes, Katey. I think that is a question that a lot of people might ask first, right? So how long we are really away from the real humanoid robot? So currently, it appears that there's still a long way to go before a lot of families have a humanoid robot at home as a companion, that can conduct a lot of tasks and, or be deeply interchangeable with humans. Because although there's a big buzz in this sector, the humanoid robot industry is still in its very early stages with noticeable deficiencies in current technology. So the industry consensus for the development of this sector is like, in the next 2 to 3 years, humanoid robots will initially be used in small batches in industrial production lines or logistics, and mainly used for material handling, assembly, sorting, and quality check tasks.
Right.
And in that process, they can gather a lot of data, and that part is really essential for optimizing the training in the later stage. Because like every companies I talk to, they are emphasizing, data. They don't have enough data. So, being kind of in an internship in factories could be a really good way for them to get a lot of data, and then they can improve. And then these humanoid robots will be increasingly integrated with large language models in a later stage, so which will enable the real-time interaction with humans. And we probably start to see massive adoption in commercial applications, including education and business services, in the following few years. And then in probably another 10 years, with some major
That's
improvements. Not far. It's just like the estimate, but we will see what will happen. But so ideally, in probably another 10 years, so with some major improvements through endless training, they might be starting to be used in households, for example, for elderly care services.
I like how you described using them in factories as kind of an internship to give them more training and more data and kind of showing how deployment is also part of the development process. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, those robots are called interns in the factories.
So why are Chinese companies focusing ultimately in the long term on humanoid robots, even more so it seems than the factory use ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because, if they're already industrial robots, why these robots has to be, like a human, right?
Yeah.
The biggest reason is because Elon Musk started to work on it. Although he is highly controversial nowadays, he has been regarded as a kind of spiritual leader among Chinese entrepreneurs. So no matter what he does, Chinese companies just follow. And we can already see that from the examples of EV and the Starlinks, right? So another interesting example is that before 2022, when Musk debuted a prototype of Optimus, so Wang Xinxin, the founder of China's now leading humanoid robot company, Unitree, even said he was not interested in developing humanoid robots because he was really focusing on the robot dogs.
Oh,
But now you can see Unitree is kind of a national symbol, right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
particularly after their humanoid robots performed at CCTV's Lunar New Year Gala, and later the founder Wang met President Xi Jinping along with Jack Ma, etc. And also, another reason is that we are seeing a lot of EV makers entering this sector, including XPeng, because XPeng thinks they are China's Tesla, and then they closely follow whatever Elon Musk is doing, and they just follow.
Wow.
So experts say that at the manufacturing level, around 70% of the components of humanoid robots are actually interchangeable with those of EVs. So China has...
That's an amazing figure.
Yeah, that is.
70%.
And that's exactly where China has a very big leverage on this, right? And so in that case, China can bet this sector, as probably as the next growth engine for its sluggish economy. And more importantly, if the US is leading on something, China will definitely try to, mobilize all its national resources to foster that sector because it doesn't want to lag behind to avoid any potential US restrictions.
Right. There's also national prestige at stake, too. If you can take the lead in such a futuristic and cutting edge technology, that just says so much about your economy and your capabilities.
Yeah.
So who would you say at the moment, US or China, has more of an edge when it comes to developing and perhaps even more importantly, commercializing humanoid robots?
Yeah, I think, the two, they are kind of both leading in a little bit different areas. So Alice told me that the US has an edge in AI chips, which is not a secret, right? And also software and algorithms. Well, China has the advantage in AI algorithm too. But it also has a strong supply chain that can greatly lower the cost, so which is very important. So that is like everything in the manufacturing sector. And we can look at some numbers in terms of the cost. So for example, Unitree's G1 and H1 were recently priced at 13,000 and 90,000 USD respectively.
Right.
So Bank of America estimates that Tesla's Optimus Generation 2 robot would cost up to 60,000 US dollars if all major components were sourced outside China.
Wow.
But if most of its hardware is produced in China in the later stage, the cost could drop to 17,000 US dollars per unit by 2030.
That's a huge savings.
Exactly.
And I guess we've seen something similar with Tesla's EVs.
Yes.
Is some of their most cost-effective models are produced in Shanghai.
Yes, that's China's big advantage, to make everything cheap.
Well, they have a lot of expertise. I mean, they've become the clear powerhouse in smartphone production and EV production and just all kinds of tech manufacturing. So
exactly.
They're starting from a pretty strong base, I guess, for humanoid robots.
Yeah, it's also highly efficient. I mean, the supply chain, in China is highly, highly efficient.
Yeah, having it all concentrated in one place is a big commercial incentive, though there is geopolitical risk. One of the biggest ones we've seen is the US been squeezing China's access to the most cutting-edge chips and chip tools for years now.
That is exactly true. Yeah. So I talked with multiple analysts about particularly about the supply chain issue and the AI chip restrictions. So they told me that China's supply chain is actually 80% to 90% self-sufficient. For middle-tier components like motors and reducers. But it still relies heavily on the US for stuff such as high-performance AI chips and precision actuators. So most Chinese humanoid robot makers rely on NVIDIA's GPUs and robot training platforms. But multiple Chinese makers told me that they are kind of concerned about the risks because it's mainly about data security on NVIDIA's platforms. So some of them, they are using domestic platforms for training if they think some aspects of the training is sensitive. So they will use domestic ones. So
this could have kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? The beneficial cycle where wanting to have better AI for your robots actually ends up boosting two industries, boosting your AI capabilities and your robots.
Yeah, right. And also, to prevent disruption from potential US restrictions. And some Chinese companies, they are already looking for potential local sources of GPUs. So, for example, I heard that, Yobi Tech, another leading humanoid robot maker. So they have been in talks with Huawei and Horizontal Robotics for potential GPU supply. And also they are in discussion with Rockchip for supply of other chips.
So we mentioned a bit about how AI is important to the human race, but how exactly does it fit into the capabilities and training of these robots?
It's very, very important, and actually it can, it will determine how ultimately good the robot's performance will be. So that is also, in terms of AI in humanoid robots, that is also why Japan is apparently lagging in this front, because we know Japan is absolutely leading in industrial robots, right? But they are not leading, they're not really leading in humanoid robots. So one reason is that the industrial focus has shifted from developing manufacturing robots to a race for AI, given how important AI is in this sector. So back to your question, how does AI really fit into it? So I can give you an example. So both algorithms and AI chips are vital in this sector, right? So one humanoid robot engineer told me that currently most humanoid robots in China, they cannot complete a whole set of tasks in production lines. So for example, in the production lines, you are supposed to, if you're human, you're supposed to carry stuff from A to B, and then you are supposed to continue carry that stuff from B to C, potentially for quality inspection.
Right.
But what it currently in the Chinese production lines is that most of the robots, they can only carry a stuff from point A to point B, but they cannot make a judgment, when and how to carry that stuff from point B to point C for quality inspection. Yeah, because the content of the task is really different, and really, about, the robot needs to make like a very accurate judgment on when and how to implement these tasks.
So when it comes to things like precision movements, for example, Japan's factory robots might be, world leading, but when it comes to replicating human judgment, I guess that's something not just Japan, but everyone is still trying to perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So to make the humanoid robots more like human, it involves a lot of factors. So, for example, it involves first of all, large language model, and then it also involves vision, sensor, and algorithm. So there are a lot of, so it's very complicated. So every step is like very difficult.
And integrating all of those parts together, yeah, that must be a massive task. It's amazing to think that we could be seeing these in as little as a decade in more wide use.
Exactly. Yeah. So back to our, just back to the question that you initially asked me. So I think we still have a long way to go, but it is indeed progressing.
And I can't wait to keep an eye on the sector and see what else comes out of your reporting.
Yeah, let's wait and see.
Thanks so much, Cissy.
Thank you, Katey.
That's all for this week's episode. For more of Nikkei Asia's coverage, visit asia.nikkei.com. You can also subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Thanks again for listening, and check back with us next week for more updates on the tech trends that matter.